So I was thinking today about like when I first came to the United States, and I came here in 1989 as part of an exchange program through the American Youth Work Center to work for 18 months at a small nonprofit. Just such was it was in Chicago and in the suburbs of Chicago. And I realized that that was a long time ago. I am still in the United States. I went through the process of applying for a green card. Actually, I did H-1 visas, then a green card, and then my citizenship so that I could live here permanently. And what I was thinking about was like the actual decision to leave and move here was totally connected to a point in my life where I had been doing youth work. I trained as a youth and community worker, Manchester Polytechnic. I worked at a community arts center, and I was feeling like it wasn't even treading water. It was just, it was getting like routine. I wasn't growing. I didn't feel like I was being pushed in any way to grow. And every year it was sort of more of like, oh yeah, you need to raise this your own salary. So I had to write for grants, which was fun for a while, but after a while just got like a little too much a little too much work for someone else and not for me. And so I think about now being in a position where I have worked for myself for over 10 years, um, as a consultant, as a trainer, as a coach, as a facilitator, and being able to create a living and a life using the skills that come from my youth development world, but like have been pushed and challenged and grown over the years. And I think about like where I am now, like at 63 years old, is I am looking at what is the next part of my life going to be like? What am I going to be producing? What am I going to be contributing? What am I going to be creating? Um, and what am I leaving behind? And so I think about retirement sometimes might feel like it's a shrinking of your identity, of your responsibilities. And for some of that, I want to let go of that. Yeah, that's great. I'd love to be able to let go of that. And the other part of it is when you let go of that stuff, what does it make room for? And so I think probably for the last 2 years, I've been like putting my feet in and tiptoeing into the water to see, okay, what's out there? What's different? What could I do um, that uses the skills and aligns with the things that make me feel excited, joyful, connected to other humans? And what are those things that I can do? And I know like the coaching part of my work, I love doing that individually with people. I love doing that as part of training and facilitation. And like for the last 3 weeks, I've been doing a number of workshops that have sort of a theme really to them about creating space for people to think about how they want to grow, but not based in reaction to a situation or a um, moment in time, based on some evidence, based on experience, based on some research, and finding a way to cultivate environments that people can start to recognize that maybe they haven't celebrated how far they've come already. And I know this was true for me, is like thinking about sometimes I think when you're running your own business or you have your own flow to your work, you are often either caught up in the flow of that work and you don't actually stop to say, holy shit, I have done a lot in the last month. Or, oh my God, I was able to impact this many people in one training. And I think now having that as a part of my regular daily, weekly, monthly practice is some sort of reflection on the areas to celebrate. It helps reframe how I think about what's coming up for me, what the next things are. So my life in retirement, working part-time, looks a little bit different than it did. It looks a lot different than it did when I was working full-time at a nonprofit as a manager of training, as the manager of a prevention department, as the manager of a treatment team. It looks very different because I get to determine every single day, like how much work I do on my business. And I also get to make decisions. Oh, look at that. The light came on. Now I've got like this beautiful reflection in my glasses. Sorry for the distraction. I'm going to try and get rid of that. Let's see if we can get rid of it, because as much as it might lighten me up, it gets this reflection in my glasses. So I think we might just have to live with the reflection in my glasses. So if you're trying to read what's on my computer, you wouldn't be able to because it's just a picture of me. So hopefully it's not too much of a distraction. Hopefully that was not a distraction because it distracted me. But let me get back to my thoughts. I was talking about how my life in retirement with this ability to think about where my workflow is, I realize that my workflow is very different. And I think by design, I've been able to create that workflow in a way that aligns with the adventures that Beth and I want to have, the way that we're sort of experimenting with being in different parts of the world at different times of the year. And so the summers, which used to be downtime, which used to be the time to go for vacations and see friends more frequently, actually have become the busier time of work for me, as I'm doing more workshops and more coaching with organizations and individuals. And that's sort of really nice because then it frees me up as the fall comes to sort of pull down some of the work that I'm doing and think about what it is that I want to do as part of this adventure in terms of traveling, in terms of training for the High Rocks, in terms of maybe learning a new language. So it opens up lots of doors, even though it might feel like the work identity is shrinking. The identity of being like a global citizen who gets to go and enjoy things all over the place whenever I want, within reason, has become like really exciting to think about. So it's a different way of planning my time. It's like I have goals, I have things that I want to get done. So one of the things that has motivated me to think about being on YouTube more is how can I share sort of the story of how it's not always easy to navigate this transition, or any transition, but for me, this particular transition of full-time work into this new retirement part-time work. And I think this transition has been evolving over a number of years, as I've said. And it gives me, I think, the opportunity to really reflect on the journey of my mom and my nan as they decided to retire. And my mom retired as late as she could. She was a teacher. She loved teaching. And she kept going as long as they will allow her to go. She was a head of a department of home economics. She liked to lead things. And when she left teaching, she found roles within a cancer research fundraising group where she would organize and pull people together and have my dad writing posters for fashion shows that they were holding. And I saw her like initially struggle with this idea of not being a teacher, but in the same regard, like threw herself into new things and tried new things out, even to the extent where there were new roles for my mom and dad. Like my mom had always been, she was a home economics teacher. She was always the cook. And as soon as my mom retired, she did not cook anymore. My dad did all the cooking. And it was almost like a seamless switch, but it was almost like they agreed in this moment that my dad would take on the cooking, and I think he really enjoyed it. He's a meticulously precise person. So like when he's cutting, everything is cut exactly the same size. It takes a long time. But my mom was able to let that completely go. And that identity of her as the cook, the planner of the meals, she was able to let go really easily, probably because she'd been doing it for so long for all of us. And I think about when we have retirement now, or I get to choose retirement, is that I am really aware of it's almost like a puzzle of like thinking about, do you have enough money to retire, right? And then you have to put all the what ifs in. And then you have to say, okay, what about healthcare? And it feels like there's a list of sort of tasks that you have to complete to be able to actually let go and go, okay, this is how I am retired. And I didn't feel that, see that with my parents at all. And maybe that's because they were in England, they were both teachers, they both had pensions. They didn't have to worry about healthcare, which I think takes a load off when you're not having to worry about your healthcare costs. They had a pension, so they knew that they had an income that was going to come regularly to them as a partnership. And I think for me and for Beth, there's like the complexities of having worked for myself for a long time, having some 401ks that are from past places that are all now with a financial planner and being worked with us. But we're at a different stage now where we have to like make some decisions about when is the moment that you stop working or need to work and say, okay, I need to keep that income coming in. It's complex, it's frustrating sometimes, but there's a piece of it also which is maybe it doesn't all have to be fixed right now, or we don't have to know everything right now. I think what we decided is that it's much more important for us to think about the experiences, the connections, the feelings that we want to have on a daily basis, and finding ways to create that wherever we are. And so for me, I think my retirement years are really a combination of this, like, okay, what can I contribute to the world in terms of the stories I might want to tell? What can I contribute to others by being a good listener, about being a good friend, And then what as a partner can I do to make sure that both our partnership is growing, but we're individually growing as human beings as well. And when you break it down to those moments, it's gets more simple. It's like if you trust that you've done everything that you can do to position yourself in a place where you can let go and move to the next step. It's a little bit like the last video I did when I was talking about this pottery show being my retirement guru or coach, is there is a certain amount of when we are creating the life that we want and we are putting all the pieces together and we're developing the skills that we need, there's a certain amount of like, yeah, I can have control over that. I can make sure that I'm doing everything that I need to do to move the needle forward. Or, you know, bottom line, like there's a small thing, right? If I want to have a YouTube channel, I have to make videos. So I can't go, oh, I'm not going to make a video today, or I'm not going to think about a group of videos that I want to share. What I have to do is I have to think about what are the things that I'm going through or I've gone through that someone else might need to hear, might resonate with, and how do I get on a camera and be able to look at myself and say, I'm okay with what I'm seeing, I'm okay with what I'm hearing. And even if it's not exactly right, even if it repeats itself, even if I make a mistake, it's okay. And that's what I think I learned from the pottery show is like, you can do everything you can to build this beautiful pot, to decorate it the perfect way. And if you have made the clay too thick and it's damp inside, it will blow up in the kiln. If you have done everything you can to painstakingly paint that piece of pottery, it could still blow up. And I think about if I can approach my YouTube channel like that, if I can approach the retirement that's coming up like that, if I can think about, okay, I still have to do the work. I still have to be full in, but I also have to be willing that it will blow up or it might not go the way I want it to go, or it might divert into a different direction. And I've got to be ready for that. And I think it's a hard thing for us to do as a human being, to let go of the control of things that we think we can control when we actually can't control any of it. We can have influence, we can make decisions that move us in a direction that we want to go. We can say no to things, hardest thing for most people to do. And I think that's for me, it's like, as we're preparing to go away for 6 months, I have been able to say no to some work, but I also trust that I will stay connected to those people so that that work comes later. So I think in thinking about this video is that there will always be a certain amount of frustration when you are trying to figure out what your next steps are. But I think part of that is also the time where we are in this moment of growth. So the past, what's brought us so far, we're moving into an area of discomfort because we've not done this before, we've not said this before, we've not thought this before, and so it feels uncomfortable. And I've decided that being uncomfortable is okay because that's where I start to grow. And so when I am doing a video like this and I'm in the moment, I'm talking and I will stop later and I'll look back at this and part of me will be going, what were you talking about? And another part of me will going, that feels uncomfortable, but you did it. What would you do differently next time? What pieces worked? And so I think there's a component of reflection or self-reflection for me, especially as I got older and I realized that I wasn't there to please everyone else. I didn't have to have the right words or say the right thing to make other people feel better at the expense of me, right? So I think it's it's a moment that you get to where you're able to take a bold move. And that move is, I am important. What I got to say matters. What I want to do matters. And for me, my next bold move is to try and create at least 3 30-minute videos to tell a story, to talk about whatever's on my mind at that moment. And this one's the first one. This is the first one where I am putting myself in a position of just talking about what's going on for me right now. The interesting thing is that this this month is a big month emotionally, usually for me. Um, it last week was the 3rd anniversary of losing my mom, and last week that day passed without me having the same emotional reaction that I've had the past 2 years. And I was trying to think about why is that? I know time creates some distance in that space. But there was also I think it was I was working a lot last week of facilitating and holding space for lots of other people. And I think I was distracted. Like I could feel that there was like, you know, sometimes when your emotions are a little bit off or you're not connected to how you're really feeling. I know that last week I was feeling a lot of that and I just couldn't put my finger on it. And like looking back from this week and realizing as a photo came up of my mom's gravestone when my brother put some flowers on, is that it made sense last week why I was feeling that sort of discomfort in emotions, but like not enough to like say, oh, this is grief coming up again. And so this week it's been interesting because I'm thinking more and more as I enter my retirement, I've been thinking about how my mom retired and how she left a legacy of her work. And I'm thinking that for me, that retirement is an opportunity for me to leave my own legacy. And I hope that that is really about how I connected and impacted others when I interact with them, how I was as a friend, how I was as a wife. And I think that the word my mom always used was like, I'm just planting seeds. And I think about as I'm looking at what the next part of this journey is, that I am not finished planting seeds. And so those might look very different. It might not be that I'm doing so many in-person trainings. It might be that those seeds get planted in my YouTube channel. And my hope is that those seeds grow into beautiful flowers that people get to enjoy. And if I need to start again, I'll have to start again. So it's sort of this understanding that a bold move can be made, a decision to move to a new country, a decision to take retirement, a decision to have a difficult conversation with someone that you've been avoiding. Those will always come and they will go. And sometimes we stop taking the decision because we've created a story about what we think the result will be, and that's not even true. So I may have created a story in my head about retirement means this for me, and I won't be seen as this or my identity. But this is all a story that I have created, some of it based in some data I might have or information that I may have read. But a lot of it is just a story that I've made up. And so my bold moves are all connected to this idea of creating the actual story that is mine. So the story I'm telling myself these days is that the best is yet to come. I have had a wonderful life. I've had lots of experiences. I have moved from the UK to the US early in my sort of career as a youth development worker. I started my own business. I moved from the nonprofit world into having my own business and having to make my own money. I came out, I got married, I have navigated the loss of a parent. So there's a lot of celebrating and like love I have for the life I've lived so far. But I realize as I think about this idea of retirement that a story I was telling myself is like some of that would have to come to an end, or it would shrink, or it would get less than. And I realized that actually the retirement is the time for me to tell myself the best is yet to come. I got a lot more life to live, and I have the opportunity of taking all that experience that I've had and using it to expand what is possible in my retirement. So thinking about like, who knew at 63 I would be creating YouTube videos and have a YouTube channel and be thinking about all the skills that I have to learn, like new skills that I have to put in place, all the stuff I have to overcome about my own, like looking at myself in the video and going, what will people think of me? I don't care. I don't care what people think, because I know that I have a beautiful story to tell, and I will continue to tell it. And that story really means that I start to tell myself that I'm in the right place. I'm going to find the right people. I'm going to do the right thing. And I am going to make an impact on the world that is important to me. And so I am really excited to create this next chapter of my story, and realizing that that story can be whatever I want it to be. And so if you're interested in maybe meeting some other people who are trying to figure out like what their next bold move is, what the thing is that they want to do next, or maybe what the thing is they've been avoiding doing or letting go of. You can join this Bold Moves monthly group, and it meets once a month on, and it's really easy to sign up. It's down in the description. I look down here, but there's no description there. It will be though. So look in the description. If that's something that interests you, it's always exciting and important to have a group that holds you accountable and challenges you at the right level. And if you want that, Bold Moves monthly group is the place to be. If you just want more videos around like retirement and wellness and like what is it like to be turning 63, 64, 65 and moving through the world as if you are in control of it and it's not controlling you, then hit subscribe, hit like, write a comment below. Let me know what's your biggest fear about retiring. I'll see you in the next one.